So this is my new to me 2002 GL1800 Goldwing. And from 10 feet away, I mean, it's a good 10 footer. It looks like a decent bike. Everybody that comes by the house says it's a good looking bike. And then I have to tell them to look closer. I bought it from a guy in Salina, Ohio. And I'm not going to name him here because I don't have his permission. But he's a stand-up guy. He did not take advantage of me. I knew what I was getting. Most of this I saw when I inspected the bike before I bought it. One of the only things that I didn't catch was this big ding in the front rim right here in the lip, and that makes this wheel worthless. Like, I knew the wheel looked bad. There's a lot of corrosion on this whole bike. I think it was stored outside its whole life. And this front fender has been rattle canned poorly, so Lord knows what happened there. This front valence that houses the fog lights are missing, and this filler panel's been screwed in on this side. And the other side has this siren, so I hate to see what the wiring harness looks like, but apparently this guy had a funeral escort business. Then this transmission cover's really heavily corroded, you know, so the paint it's just underneath the paint, you know, so it's bubbling the paint off. This crash bar's pitted. The valve cover, like the clear coat's pretty much MIA on the valve cover, both sides. This mirror's scuffed, and that's not such a big deal, but the headlights have adhesive on them from like packing tape or something, and I'll be able to clean it off, but it just makes you think, what the heck. This mirror's got a big chunk missing out from underneath of it. And this kind of front windshield beauty panel has a big chunk missing out of it. And the fairing itself has these holes drilled in both sides for, I think the guy had strobe lights on it. So there's hardly a good piece of Tupperware on this bike. Here's the holes in the other side. Here's a look at the other valve cover that I mentioned. The other crash bar. Then these trim pieces have holes drilled in them. Almost every Goldwing I have has this. They drill holes to put these wind deflector things on. So here's the other side, just holes. And the radio, it looks like it's been sprayed, rattle canned or something. It's definitely seen a lot of UV damage. You see this kind of where the paint's been flecking away on it. Really bad over here on the edge. Bad. Then they've jammed this pin through the holes, this kind of hat pin through the holes on the speaker grill on the left side. And then if you look at the instrument panel, what have they been cleaning this with? Their car keys? The gauges are just destroyed. They work, but reading them could be a fun experience. Yeah, and then it's got these aftermarket heated grips. Here's the show chrome controller for the heated grips, but they've snipped the wires off of the heated grips. You can see right there. No wires. This vent's missing on the right side. They've got one of these reservoir cap extenders on the brake reservoir to add more switches. And of course the paint's coming off of it. Like I say, I hate to see the wiring harness on this bike. corrosion on this RAM mount for their cell phone or whatever. And then the handlebar. Heavy corrosion on the aluminum on the handlebar, and the powder coating is flaking off. So down here by the passenger floorboard, there's duct tape residue. That's always a good sign. And then if you look at this right side panel, Lord knows what they've done here with these holes, but look at the frame damage. It's cosmetic, but the finish on the frame, look at all these scratches. Like, what on earth did this guy have installed here? And what, we'll never know. And of course, here's the finish on the rear wheel. And the rear license plate filler panel, the rear fender, of course, is a different color from the bike, so it's been swapped out at some point for whatever reason. And then the seat has these weird burn marks on both sides right underneath the passenger grab handles. Almost this reddish color, and it's brittle. I'd love to know what on earth happened there on both sides, but we'll never know. Other than that, the seat looks pretty good. It looks like the passenger backrest has been reupholstered, and they did a really decent job, but I can just kind of tell by the way this stitching is laid in here. It's not the factory molded vinyl. Then the clear coat on the trunk is pretty well done. I'm sure from UV. It's hard for me to tell if it's ever been resprayed or not, but a lot of times. Then this trim work used to be red. You can see the trim around the trunk used to be red and has been painted poorly. And here's where the CB antenna is missing. So the guy that sold me this bike parts out bikes. So this glove box is completely missing. And the door off this glove box is completely missing. And then the guys added a strobe light here to this glove box. And these passenger armrests are toast. Probably from UV. Probably not from use, probably just from exposure. And then if you look, the wiring for the rear speakers is completely missing. And the CB's missing. But this guy parted out bikes, you know, so he took all the high dollar stuff off the bike before he sold it to me. And it's disappointing, but I don't blame him. When I first brought this bike home, I wanted to show somebody the adjustable windshield. So I raised the windshield all the way up, and then it would not go down for anything. So I ended up taking off this beauty panel. And wait till you see what I found underneath. This entire windshield clamp looks like it's been sprayed with a truck bed liner, but it hasn't. That's just the severe pitting in the steel, and then it's been rattle canned over with spray paint. I just topped off this battery earlier in the day, and it's already dead. Won't even start the bike. So we have to jump start it. And Eureka, she runs. But we're not out of the woods yet. Pretty much as soon as this bike starts running, you can smell the oil burning. You can't smell it, of course, through YouTube, but trust me, this engine is worn out. Well, she runs, but we're not out of the woods yet. What's this noise? Look at that corrosion on the exhaust heat shield too. The rust on that bolt for the foot peg.
If you can hear that. If you can hear that, that's what the alternator bearing death rattle sounds like. Look at all that corrosion on the engine. Yeah, I hate that sound, but we're just gonna take it for a spin because I want to make sure there's not like any major transmission issues before I rebuild this engine, you know, because you'd want to address any of that while you've got the engine apart. And you can smell it burning oil. It's just an awful smell. So part of the way this feels, if you notice that, it may be a clutch problem. Because this guy did funeral escorts, so he did like a bunch of low speed stop and go, I reckon. So maybe this bike needs the clutch replaced. I can't imagine rebuilding an engine on a 150,000 mile bike and not doing the clutch. Oh, the turn signal doesn't cancel when you push the button. That's interesting.
There's a car kind of coming up behind this white van on the left. And I just want to make sure that he's actually going to turn before I pull out.
Fun. Oh man, the front brake is stiff too. I can't even move the front brake lever. I don't know if you could see it. Sounds like something just fell off. I don't see any parts laying around. That's interesting. Now my front brake's dragging. So the front master cylinder needs rebuilt. It's essentially shot. Luckily I have a pair of them at the house, a pair of master cylinders. I was going to change those anyway, just for cosmetics, because a lot of the parts I have at the house don't have near the UV exposure that these have, and the paint missing and stuff. But now I just got to power this thing on home, because my front wheel's going to lock up. But the transmission, shifts nice and smooth, and it doesn't kick itself out of gear like some of these bikes do, false neutrals and whatnot. I can smell the front brake now, so we're just gonna go home and park this on the patio. I know what I wanted to know.
Man, we made it. So in case you're wondering kind of what my plans are for this bike, I've been parting out Goldwings for a while. So here's a good engine with only 80,000 miles on it that I've had for a while. So I'm going to swap this into the bike, and then I'll repair the one that's in the bike for a future project, like maybe even something wild like turbos. We'll see. The ceiling in my shop is a virtual graveyard for Goldwings. I have almost every piece. Unfortunately, nothing I have is black, so there's gonna have to be some paint. It's a good thing I'm no stranger to painting things. Just a taste of things to come. Here's that front valence. A dash. Front fairing stay. I even have a whole front end off of a 2001. I had the wheel powder coated black, and there's a brand new front tire on it. I even have a pair of headlights that I baked open in the oven and blacked out part of the reflector. They're pretty rad. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll be doing an engine swap probably in February, and then this is going to be my test mule for my shop on YouTube. Custom stereo, maybe even some digital gauges. We'll see.